Hi, everybody. I forgot to mention in the tips for students this week that we are going to schedule a meeting probably Thursday before your quiz is even due. Tuesday and Thursday are your meeting times, 10 o'clock to 10:30. And when I say meeting times, it's the time designated for you to look at your presentations like this one, your PowerPoint, or your virtual screencast, and we'll talk, and I'll talk to you about what we're looking at here on the screen, okay? So this week is 7.4.1, and your quiz is, I believe, 7.4.3 due Friday on the 24th, okay? So you want to read all 9 pages before you start launching the study guides and trying to complete those and going, or just go straight to the quiz and take it. You're not going to do well because it's intricate. This is even a little different from the material that we have at school. It's really good too. So let's take a look at the diverse continent, all right? But it's always good to preview the study guide before you actually complete the material. So I'm going to look at that as well. And as we look at the study guide, why would I do that if I don't know how to finish it? Well, it helps us know what we're looking for and know what we're reading and know things that might be of importance while we're reading and what we need to analyze, what we need to describe and explain on this study sheet. So the first thing they want us to look at are the three main ethnic groups in South Africa. Then they want us to pay attention to what is apartheid, what year did apartheid last to, or when did it end? When did it end? What happened in Rwanda in 1994. Then they want you to fill in a pie chart showing what percent of Africans follow Christianity, Islam, and native African religions. I would take my crayons or highlighters out and do that one. That one seems pretty cool. I like that activity. How and when was Christianity brought to Africa? That's again skimming the text and reading the text thoroughly and taking notes even while you're reading. How and when was Islam brought to Africa? Cool. And what feature separates the most Muslims part of Africa from the most Christian part? And number 9, in Africa, how does the growth rate of Islam compare to that of Christianity? Number 10, Ethiopia has blank indigenous languages. Number 11, what are the results of the polarized populations of many African countries? Number 12, why is the ethnic makeup of most African countries very diverse? What is the IMF? Some acronyms for you. Why does Egypt have a partly socialist economy? What policies does the IMF promote? What is privatization? We've talked about that in the Mexico economy. What are some complaints about the IMF? What are some reasons for the economic diversity in Africa? What are some commonalities among the economies of African nations? Number 20, how are the economies of Sierra Leone and Tanzania different? Number 21, South Africa has a blank percent unemployment rate and blank percent of people live below the poverty line. And number 22, describe the goals of African Economic Communities, AEC. Number 23, what are the obstacles standing in the way of AEC's goals? Number 24, how do civil wars affect political systems in Africa? Number 25, what are some general characteristics of the political systems in Africa? And number 26, how have political boundaries imposed by European colonizers prevented stable political systems from developing in Africa? Number 27, what is meant by minority rights? And number 28, list some of the problems produced by diversity in Africa. Whew, that's a lot, I know. So as I scroll back up, I'm just going to concentrate on a couple of three of the tops so that you can see these are in order and you can do some copying and pasting or I like writing, so I'll print mine out and write mine sometimes. And yes, I can give you credit for these if you submit those, okay? Going into our coursework again, I had just clicked on the study guide and showed you everything that we need to look for. So the first 2 questions again, we're going to look for the 3 main ethnic groups in South Africa and what is apartheid, and apartheid lasts in South Africa until the year blank, and maybe even the Rwanda question. So as I go into Apex, I'm gonna make sure I'm reading everything, and then I'm gonna go back and say, yo, I saw that, so let me locate it in the text, okay? So after I read everything here, I can even click the audio and let the lady, or however you can turn it down a little bit, Spence. You can even let the reader read for the narrator, okay? So as I go to the next one, okay, cool maps on here. I even was going to show this in class on one of the PowerPoints I had ready for you, but as you can see, All these colors represent the people in the diverse continent of Africa. And a lot of you might say, French, Arabic, English, this makes no sense, Miss Stan. Remember when we talked about colonization, those people that moved in for natural resources, and we talked about imperialism, those words might pop up again, okay? But just to navigate the text a little bit, and when you get a little confused, you can hit on a vocabulary word, and I'll move my camera up. And polarized means divided into opposing groups or factions, right? You can hit on apartheid and it'll give you the meaning right there, so you don't have to have a dictionary sometimes close by. It's good to, because there can be other things in here that don't make sense, like the word over here, Cape Coloreds. We say the word colors, but see how they spell it? All right. And for that first question, it says, what are three main ethnic groups in South Africa? And as we go in, three main groups, it looks like this paragraph has proof or evidence that I can justify the meaning, or I can justify the answer by just looking into this text right here. It says some nations are extremely polarized in their population makeup. For example, South Africa has been divided among its black population of predominantly Zulu and Xhosa origins, its white populations of European origin, and its mixed race population of African, European, and Asian origins. In South Africa, these last are called Cape Coloreds. Until very recently, a system of racial segregation known as apartheid created this legal, political, and cultural division. If we were in school, I would explain apartheid and I would break it down into three racial groups. At the top is white, in the middle would be coloreds or brown people, and at the bottom of the ladder, of course, would be blacks. And we will go into depth about the discrimination, the segregation, and the racism that separated all three, the unfair and unequal things, of course, that separated all three of those ethnic groups, okay? So again, as we see our answer here, there are three groups, right? And then we start here. I can just go ahead and I can identify there's black population, 1, white population, 2, mixed race, 3. Got that? So even when if I can pull up my study guide, there we are, I can paste it right into there and see that, yo, there it is. And then apartheid, we already read apartheid. It was right into our reading. Okay. And we had the system of legalized segregation and equal civil rights. Now, I don't promote copying and pasting. I do promote you writing it into your own words. But the reading is also in identifying. I do credit you for that. Okay. So as I go back to mine, I even wrote it in my own words this time. A system of segregation in South Africa is good enough because, as you can see, there are 27 questions in here. So I can understand if you give me a brief 28 questions. I can see if you give me a brief answer. Try to do complete sentences, but make sure you describe, analyze, and explain so that I know, of course, what you're doing. And apartheid lasted in South Africa to the year 1994. Ms. Stan, you didn't point that out. Well, let's prove it. Let's go back to the text. All right, and it says it right here, genocide. And 1994 is my answer. And they highlight two groups, the Tutsi and Tutsi and the Hutus. I usually talk about a short clip in a movie that you have to get a parent approval to watch called Hotel Rwanda. And you had to get your parents to, of course, give you permission to watch that. It's it used to be on Netflix. I think you have to buy it now, but it actually goes into depth with the United Nations and how the United Nations had to come in and almost save the ethnic groups from being stripped of their privileges and victimized to genocide. Genocide we talked about during the Holocaust, so this is something that you might want to look into. Make sure you look at the whole PowerPoint. I'm going to try to upload a really cool video that I used to watch growing up. My mom let me used to, watch it, and it was an 80s video when Jesse Jackson was running for president, and he liked Stetsasonic. Stetsasonic talked about AFRICA, and he will list all the African nations that suffered from apartheid, and it really helped me understand what this meant. But I'll put that on in the PowerPoint pretty much towards the end, okay? As you go through, some cool exercises that I saw in this. Of course, I love the map work. but some cool exercises. Make sure you take a look at the links they posted for you. Stanford there, they have some old maps that you can take a look at. Okay. Another one I liked for you to look into. Make sure you do these activities as well. Make sure you choose the 4 correct answers. The matching I really, really liked. Okay, that's a really cool activity. And then, of course, make sure you click on the cool little links here. The African Economic Community, the AEC. It's going to give you some questions on your study guide about that. It takes you back to the words colonialism. Remember to look those up if you forgot what it meant. But colonialism is when the European nations or even Asian nations um, settled or inhabited areas to take over natural resources due to natural resources. And sometimes those natural resources were people. And in this unit, and even before that natural resource being that of Africans themselves being slaves, has a lot to do with colonialism, natural resources, so forth and so on. But this actual unit concentrates on a lot more political sense and government sense, and I'd like for you to take a look at some of those. Make sure you look into these. These are just prerequisite questions that will help you on your quiz. I do take a look at your quizzes. I even take them myself to test my knowledge. And yes, I have to go back, even me, have to go back and say, yo, I need to read this a little bit closer and take the quiz again. You can always reset it and make sure you ask in time enough to reset your quiz. Don't wait till after the due date on Saturday or Sunday, please. That doesn't help out at all. I have to lock those quizzes now that we're on week 3. Okay. So after you get to about page 7, you're winding down, you're reading thoroughly, and you can have this is the same study guide right here. It says, congratulations, you reached the end of this unit. Before moving on, make sure you complete your study guide, yes, and check your answers against the sample responses. Please do that every time. You can ask questions along the way, and not just to reset your quiz, but maybe you want to discuss some of the content in the chapter. It's interesting. You may do that. You can ask questions like that. You can put it in the chat. I'll be at the computer. And I hope you enjoy it. It's a really cool unit. And then, of course, I believe after this, we go into Oceania, okay? On Thursday, before Thursday, you'll hear from me if you want to do a video conference. If I get enough responses, then we can do that on Teams, okay? All right, take care.